back in 2011, 2012, when I wrote How to Be a Productivity Ninja, I talked about mindfulness in that book, and I had to kind of couch the idea of mindfulness with lots of caveats. So I'd write things in there like, okay, so this is going to be a bit hippie, but bear with me, because it really felt like mindfulness was not something that was on the radar of businesses. I was really worried about this being something that was just a bit too hippie dip, a bit too out there for what I perceived was going to be a mainstream business book, which is how it's turned out. But it's also true to say that since I wrote that book, the idea of mindfulness and its link to business and the way businesses are now starting to talk about mindfulness, it's really come on in leaps and bounds, and it's no longer seen as some kind of weird sort of hippie thing, and it's become much more mainstream. Why is that, first of all? So I think that's like directly down to the frenetic pace that people are required to spend their working days in. It's just this idea of being switched on 24/7 just creates this real need for mindfulness, and it creates this idea that without something like mindfulness, we never quite get to where we need to be, and we're kind of constantly in this kind of state of flux, if you like. So I think for me, mindfulness is a very useful. It's a very useful set of techniques. So often it's confused. The word mindfulness is confused with the word meditation, and often people just associate those two words as kind of meaning the same thing. I'd argue that mindfulness is a slightly wider definition. So for me, it's about anything that allows you to be present and in the moment, and really focused on you, and focused on where you are, and focused on the stuff that's going on around you. And I think that can come in a number of different forms. So meditation is a great way to develop that sense of being present. But so is things like in Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way, she talks about writing 3 pages of A4. So you write all the gunk that's going on in your head, all those dialogues you're having with yourself, you just write it, stream of consciousness style every morning. And that for me is a really great mindfulness technique, because what it's doing is allowing you to really get set and be present on, okay, here's me writing, here's the things I'm writing on the page, and really, getting a sense of what's going on beneath the surface in your own mind. So anything that allows you to really get that sense of being present in the moment and acknowledging, your particular state, the particular way that you're feeling, I think is a really important thing for productivity. A lot of the productivity tools and books and apps and these things, I think there's often a kind of sort of inbuilt sort of problem in that stuff, in that it often preaches how to become a robot. It sort of gives you this very rigid structure to follow, and doesn't take into account at all the fact that we are all human, and we do have a bit of gunk going on in our heads now and again, and we have emotions that are going to get in the way. Fear is driving us, guilt is driving us, all this stuff that's very human, but also very real. And I think it's important to bring that stuff to the table, warts and all, foibles and all, and then manage ourselves and manage our attention, our productivity off the back of that. Rather than trying to sideline that stuff, rather than trying to ignore it, I think it's really important to recognize all that stuff within our own productivity. So whether that's about meditating once a day for 10 or 15 minutes, really, really simple, small thing to do, whether it's just about developing mindfulness and intentionality in day-to-day life. So just generally, like when you get up in the morning, like is the first thing you do to check emails and start to get lost and reactive in what everyone else is thinking and everyone else's priorities? Or is it to just take that step back and kind of go, how am I feeling today? What's going on for me? What does my day look like? What do I really want to achieve here? Like, what am I about here? So just that idea of mindfulness, that idea of just being really self-aware, being aware of the moment, being aware of what's around you and what's to come, but really getting that sense of presence and focus within that. Meditation, as I say, is a great way of doing that. There's a couple of great apps you can look at that may well help if you're struggling with that. So there's one called Headspace, another one is called Buddhify. There's a really great little apps just to take 10 or 15 minutes every day and just think about this idea of mindfulness, develop meditation practice, and you'll see the benefits of that certainly all through your day and all through your life, in terms of what that gives you in lots of other parts of your life as well. So I just encourage you to think about this idea of mindfulness. I assure you it's not hippy-dippy. It's really started to become a very mainstream thing to think about. There's loads of resources out there online, and certainly people who go into this stuff in a lot more depth than I ever have or will, but I think there's some really good stuff out there, and really do explore that, because I think it's really great stuff.